Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. We're back again with another video. Now today I'm going to be showing you a build for one of the frames that was just released in this month's rotation of Prime Resurgence, Mirage. Now this build I have used for many different uses, which include regular Steel Path missions, low level extermination fissures, Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, and even the Steel Path circuit. But before we get into the build itself, you will need access to the Helminth, Archon Shards, and also Arcane Energize. There's just a heads up, if you do not have any of these but you want to watch the video to see what you can build towards, then by all means, I hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. So just before we get into the build, we'll talk about Focus School. Now, a Focus School which may be quite useful to you is going to be Resurgence. Now, generally in Steel Path, in any sort of mission that you're going to do, the companion will be the main source of survivability and it will keep you alive whilst also maintaining its own life. But in cases where you don't get the companion, like the circuit for example, you will need something else. And in this case, Resurgence is what you want. And that is because of Protective Sling. You sling into yourself, you will give yourself immunity for 5 seconds, and your frame will also be healed for 60% of its health over that 5-second duration, with a cost of 10 energy. Now in a case of where you're hit with toxin for example, or heat which does a ton of damage, you sling into yourself, it will give you immunity for that 5 seconds. Any damage that has already been done to you with the afflicted status effects will be healed, assuming that it is less than 60%, you will get all of your health back, and if there is still a bit of status duration left, it will keep ticking down without doing any further harm to you in those 5 seconds. Now, not to say that this can only be used in the circuit. If you do want to, you can equip this in any other mission in a case of a last resort. So now we're going to talk about a couple of operator arcanes you can use to help you with both this Mirage build and also just in general Warframe gameplay. So the first one is going to be Magus Lockdown. So you drop a mine when you sling that subdues up to 10 enemies within 50 meters for 4 seconds. So what you can do with that 4 seconds is roll in guard, maybe get rid of all your status effects, gain immunity, reposition, and get yourself ready to continue the mission in any sort of overwhelming situation. Now the only thing that differs between these ranks is the range at which 10 enemies can be subdued. So at unranked, you have 3 meters, rank 1, 6, 9, 12, etc. But the number of enemies and the duration will be the same. Now, if you want to use an unranked one, then you can, but I don't think it will be that effective. I would definitely recommend that you get a rank 5, whether you grind for one or purchase one off the market. I think they're going for around 99, 100 platinum right now. But definitely get yourselves one, because this can be very, very useful. Now, the second one is going to be Magus Elevate. So when you go into your operator, you have a 100% chance to give your frame 300 health. Now in this case that's going to be Mirage, and this is going to be very useful. So with the ranks, the only thing that's going to differ is the amount of health you restore to your frame. At unranked, you only give 50 health every time you go into your operator form. Rank 1, 100, 50, 200, etc. Now I would again definitely say this is a very good one to have in a case of where you get hit with toxin again or heat. If you lose that damage and the status duration is gone, you've lost some health, there's no health orbs around, you go into your operator form a couple times, get that health back and get back to max. Now alternatives you can use to this, Magus Repair. Instead of going into your operator form, you go into your void mode and it will heal your frame and any frames within 30 meters of you by 25% of their health every second. Again, very useful. Now if you for some reason don't want to use any of these, 2 others you can use, Magus Nourish. When you go into your operator, you will get 35 health per second to your frame, or Magus Replenish. When you sling into your frame, you will get 30% of your health back. Now this may be even more useful when you're using Resurgence and Protective Sling, because you're going to sling into your Warframe anyway, heal 60% of their health over 5 seconds, and then on top of that, assuming you have a rank 5 Magus Replenish, you can get an extra 30% of your health back. That's 90%. Again, going to be really nice to have. So as I mentioned at the start of this video, you will need access to Archon Shards. So if you don't, for any reason, maybe you don't have the right weaponry, or maybe you don't know how to do the fight and you want me to do a guide on it, then let me know with a like on this video, or maybe drop a comment down below and I will definitely do one. But for this particular build, I've got one Archon Shard here for ability duration. Now do note that if you are using the Tau Forged version of some of these shards, you will get an increased effectiveness on that specific attribute. Then we are using Tau Forged Amber Shard for a casting speed. Now this isn't a natural talent by any means, but it still is a little bit of casting speed to cast our Prism a little bit faster. And then the final three are going to be Strength Based Crimson Archon Shards, which give us a total of 35% ability strength, one of them being Tau Forged. Okay, so now we're going to go through the build itself. Now we're going to be focusing on Mirage's Prism. Now this scales with strength, of course, duration, and also number of enemies. Now this build, this minimal build, is one former. Now you can choose to former this a couple more times to add an Exodus mod in which case I would recommend using Prime Sure-Footed here or Preparation. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, you will need access to the helmets, and in this case we're going to subsume Necrosis Terrifier here, and this is going to be used for armor reduction and de-aggro. So for the build, we've got Corrosive Projection. This is going to remove a little bit of the armor just to make, in general, dealing with these grenade enemies a little easier. But then for the Eximus units, your higher armored units, bombards, heavy gunners, etc., you're going to be using Terrify to remove all of their armor. Then they have no shields, no armor, they're complete flesh, and they're going to be a lot easier to deal with. Then we've got Prime Flow here paired with Streamline. Give us that energy capacitance so we can pick up all the enemy and have a huge pool to keep casting our abilities, and Streamline is going to give us that bit of efficiency to also help with that, since Prism has an initial casting cost of 35 in this case, and then also has a drain per second of 4. Then we have got Prism Guard, of course. Now this is going to make it so that the Prism floats above Mirage's head at all times and follows us. Now the downside of this, of course, is that it has a 4-second default duration, which makes sense because it would be hella OP if it had the 20-odd second duration that it would with the current duration that we have on. Then we have got Transient Fortitude here and Umbral Intensify for our ability strength. Now this is going to add on top of our Archon Shards, of course, and then using Umbral Vitality here to add some survivability, but also buff our Umbral Intensify even more to 50%. Then we've got Overextended as our range mod. And then in terms of Arcanes, we are running Arcane Energize, of course. As I mentioned at the start, you will need access to this. This is going to help us, again, maintain our energy, since we are going to be casting Prism, which has the initial and durational costs, and also our Terrify in some instances. And then finally, we have Molt Augmented, which when we get a kill, is going to increase our ability strength even more and add even more damage. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the companion, which is going to be Shade. Now you can use whatever version you want, whether it be the normal, the Prisma, or the Prime, but they will have a little bit of varied stats. The Prime has more armor than the Prisma, and they both have more shield and armor compared to the normal version. For the build, in terms of miscellaneous mods, we've got Primed Animal Instinct and Vacuum, just like you would on any other companion. Vacuum to gather mods and resources, Animal Instinct to look for those mods, resources, and also enemy radar to see where the enemies are. Then in order to keep Shade alive, we have got Enhanced Vitality, Calculated Redirection, and Primed Regen. Now do note, if you don't have the primed versions of these mods, you will have a reduced effectiveness. For example, normal regen only regens your companion once, rather than primed having 3 times. Then, in order to actually benefit us, we've got Mediray, which will occasionally heal us for 12% of our health over 4 seconds. Shield Charger, which is going to increase max shields and regeneration by 60% for 10 seconds. And then we've also got Guardian here. Once our shield goes completely, it gets all returned to us instantly. Now, what these two mods don't tell you is that they both have a 30-second cooldown, so do be aware of this in case you wonder why your shield runs out once, regens runs out again, and it hasn't. Then finally, we have got Ghost. Now, this is the main mod here. Once we are in enemy line of sight, and they are within 24 meters of us, we will get cloaked. They can't see us, they can't do anything. And this will only go if that enemy is killed, or we shoot and we then are forced out of it. Now, again, what this mod doesn't tell you is that it has an 8-second cooldown. So what I like to do is, once we cast our prism, as you saw previously, we have almost a 7-second duration on it. So we activate it, we shoot, then we have that 7 seconds of our prism guard going. Once that 7 seconds ends, we will have a bit of blind for that extra 1 second before we then get cloaked again, assuming that a non-blinded enemy comes towards us or that blind duration has ended. Then for the final mod, it is up to you. You can form it a couple times and then put it on. You can either use repair kit, for example, for healing over time. You can use synth fiber or metal fiber for armor, spare parts if you want a specific rare item that you're looking for, anything like that.
Like an infected wound, the paradox breeds defenders out of the raw void. Contain the paradox. Kill the enemy. Do not relent.
That is it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.
Catch me if I fall.